Hello, vinyl community. This is Bill Young at the Record Club, uh, Michigan Record Club. Welcome. I know it's been a while since I did a video. I do them when I can, and when I feel well enough to do it. So we're gonna try doing one today. Hopefully, it won't take too long. I went to a record show a while back, and I got some great records. A friend of mine that's in the Michigan Record Club, he's a expert on psych records, and he's my go-to guy. Almost any question he can answer for me, but mostly I like to just talk with him, just say, hey, what's up? Tell me something cool about, you know, tell me some cool psych records. So we started talking about some records by Phil Pearlman. Now, Phil Pearlman didn't make a lot of records. And a matter of fact, he didn't keep the name Phil Pearlman all of his life. He eventually changed it to Seth Gadiah or something like that, which I believe is a Muslim name because he switched his religion at the time. He lived like a hippie, and he enjoyed making records that were kind of experimental and psychedelic. So, in 1967, he made this record here. It's called The Electric Hole. Now, this record is a reissue because the originals are unbelievably expensive. You can't find originals. I mean, there were so few of them made, and that record it is excellent. It's everything you want in a psych record, and I was excited when I listened to it, and heard it for the first time. In 1970, he came out with a second album. It was called Beat of the Earth. And this record is an artistic statement. Very good. Almost as good as the first record. I would put it right there. And just as hard to find. I mean, and just as expensive if you find an original. Of course, this, again, is a reissue. Now, of course, Phil Pearlman, he had a few children, a couple boys, a couple girls. But the first boy, his name was Adam. And Adam liked music. He went and lived with his grandfather for a while, so he had access to TVs and the internet and stuff like that, which the hippie commune type people didn't have access to. But he kind of dwelled in the hard rock music. Matter of fact, he progressed into a group of death metal music. He never really came out with too many good albums, but his father did come out with one more album in 1976, and this again is a reissue. This one is also extremely rare. It's called Relatively Clean Rivers. Um, yeah, it kind of sounds like an eco statement or something, but it's pretty good too. Great, great music, and and yeah, the the words kind of have a statement, but I suggest you go ahead and try to listen to this one too if you're into psych, because it's really good. But the son, Adam, he started getting involved in some other stuff. He was communicating with people over in the Middle East. He got converted, became Al Qaeda. He was one of the early Al Qaeda operatives in the United States. And he actually went over the Middle East later and was operating there, doing videos for Al Qaeda and stuff. And well, the United States kind of tracked his location down, and during a drone strike, he was killed. And that is pretty much the end of the story to Phil Pearlman and his family. Phil never came out with too much other music that was enjoyable. He went on to just, do farming and stuff like that. All right, next I would like to talk about an album called Return to Reality by Epitaph. And that's kind of shiny. I apologize for the glare. And Epitaph, in this particular Epitaph band, there's a couple of them, but this is a really good rock and roll. The band is mostly out of Germany. The lead singer was Englishman from the UK, and they had a long career. Matter of fact, they're still making music to this day, as far as I remember. I don't think there's anything real modern, but some of the early Epitaph music is really, really good. Here I have a copy, UK version, of course. I don't think it was ever reissued here, of Epitaph, self-titled. And this album was released in 1971. Very hard to get your hands onto, but you still can get them for about $70, but the prices have been going up. 70, 75, 80 bucks. And this one, of course, is in really, really good condition. I would say VG++. The second album, which was just as hard to come by, which was called Epitaph, Stop, Look, and Listen. Again, this is some excellent early rock and roll. You guys kind of know the type of rock and roll that I like, and these are on Polydor, I believe, and yeah, it's really good. This album was released in 1972. Yeah, it's on a Polydor label, and this one is even more expensive. This one goes for about $90 to about $100. They did do a third one the first one I showed you was actually their fourth release, but I had the first three and I wanted that fourth one. I may keep going. This was just called Epitaph also. Oh, no, it's called Outside the Law. In this particular album, they had came over to the United States for the first time, was touring the United States, and was talking to some people and got some studio time, real reasonable over here. Made this album and overproduced it. There's a lot of copies of this album out. It is very good music. Not quite as good as the first two, but it's similar to that fourth album. And you can get this record for about $10 if you can find it. All right. Now I want to go back and talk about another very interesting psych album. This one is has a lot of history also involved in it. Then this side is Apache, and this side is Inca. But this album was made by a gentleman by the name of Craig Smith. He too changed his name. There's some big long name that I won't try. Craig Smith is easy to remember and pronounce, so we'll go with Craig Smith. There's a booklet in here that will tell you about the whole story of Craig Smith. All the looks he went through. Here's a picture of him with a shaven head. There's a picture of him, I think, out of high school. I believe here's a picture of him with his band called Arcade Penny. And he really dropped off, because of drugs, basically. He's another LSD casualty in a psych world, and we've had quite a few of those. And he is one of them. He too, took on religious. That's why he changed his name, was due to his religion. He did a solo album, and you can find it, Craig Smith, called Love Our Existence. And he got to know all kinds of people, Beatles, Jimi Hendrix. He knew a lot of people. He went over to London. He traveled quite a bit. He wanted to take the trek from the Holy Lands over to see the Hindu, priests. And as he traveled and as he crossed through the country of Pakistan, he was attacked in Pakistan. He was beaten thoroughly. And in fact, he was raped several times by these Afghanistan thugs that had beat him up. He survived all that, but he changed. Never really produced any other music other than these two albums. He did produce these right afterwards. There is some of the music in here that he wrote during the time he was with Arcade Penny, or Penny Arcade, I mean. And so he lived a terrible life, living on the streets, and eventually he lived right up till 2012, where he died on a park bench in a sleeping bag. This is a 2-record album, quite expensive. Even the reissue runs you about $50, $60, or sometimes more. But it's very good. Good psych. A lot of good psych in there, and very good listen. You have to look them up. All right, I want to go through some of these other ones a little bit quicker here, so we're running out of time. This is a Beatles album made in Germany. It's called Sessions. Of course, all of our Beatle experts probably know of this album. I like it for the main reason that it has a lot of songs that you don't hear anywhere else. Um, like How Do You Do It, One After 909, Leave My Kitten Alone, That Means a Lot, If You've Got Troubles. It's just a lot of different songs that you can't find on any other album. And this album was produced very good. It was produced by George Martin, and it sounds really good. I'll show you the label on this one since it's a little different, but it's on the Odin label. You'll see several different Odin labels. That was one of them. Next, that was released in 1986. Next, it's John Coltrane. I was excited to find some John Coltrane at the record show. I got a big record here. I mean, the record I've been looking for. I was excited to get a hold of. Giant Steps. This is John Coltrane at his best. This is a reissue. Very clean, just so good. It was originally released in 1960. Like it a lot. And here is another one from John Coltrane quartet. The quartet would be McCoy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison on bass, Elvin Jones on drums. This one also very good. Recorded live in Europe, if you like live albums. It was released in '62, I believe. This album is just so clean. You can see how nice and clean. Hard to find a black record like that, but on Dippo Records. I believe it's out of Stockholm. I know that's where this was filmed. It could be German, I'm not sure. But one more jazz here. I got me a little bit of Mingus. And this is Charles Mingus in Europe. Mingus in Europe. And it features Eric Dolphy on flute. Tenor saxophone is Clifford Jordan. Jackie Baird with piano. And Danny Richmond is on drums. I like it. It really gets heavy on some of the instruments, but it too's on a strange label. It was actually recorded over in Germany, over in West Germany, in Berlin, and here was the record label. A lot of people excited to see that record label. A little bit rare. Yeah, people who really love their jazz. And that's it. Did get a few more records. We'll wait until the next meeting, and we'll show those ones to you. I'm really excited about them too. They're all a lot of good records there. But until then, I thank you, and thanks for sticking with me. And I'll try to make it a little bit sooner, all right? All right, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.